Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's the At the Buzzer podcast, episode 5. With you as always, Mo Money and my co-host G. How you doing this week, G?
I'm doing good. We're inching closer and closer to the season. The Raptors were in the home city here. I was feeling the energy. Couldn't have asked for better weather this weekend. So I'm pretty thankful
Two
overall
weeks
today.
to the jump. 2 weeks to jump, man.
That
Are you
is
feeling it yet?
almost, it feels that weird, surreal thing. Like it hasn't quite hit yet. You're not
And
seeing.
the thumbnail is having a little fun with Kings fans with the Raptor with the crown on his head holding the basketball. I love it. I love it. I'm being petty. I know I'm being petty, but I thought I'd have some fun this week.
Hey, so did the Raptors. All right. Do they just I was thinking, what a beautiful weekend for them to be here. They must have been soaking it in, the Stanley Parks, the ocean vibe. Like, I think it was a good time.
So, how much stock do we put in a Raptors preseason win in Vancouver this early before the season starts?
Well, if you're a Raptors fan like myself, you're putting all the stock in. We are looking great. We're better than ever. This is what we needed. It's bright futures ahead. Um, it is nice to see all the different change and a lot of the fresh energy, which has been lacking. Like the mojo was gone. It was MIA, and saw some. That's cool. What about you? What did you
Well,
think?
you know what? It goes in cycles because I think every NBA franchise suffers from that, where the chemistry goes and the vibe goes, and it's just not the same anymore.
Just ask Philadelphia. They've been like that for 25 years.
I see. I'm not the only one taking shots tonight.
It's call it as you see it.
Call it as you see it. Well, Wembenyama's hit the floor. A lot of the rookies are getting their looks. Wembenyama had a highlight reel moment there earlier this week.
Yeah.
He did. What we're talking stock this week, I guess. How much stock do you put into Wembenyama's performance for the
Mm,
Spurs?
that's a topic. That's a big topic of conversation. I see that's a hot one right now. And I don't really know. I'm not putting a ton in, so I'm putting like a couple interesting stocks, but I'm not going too far in. It's
No, I put him in the Chet Holmgren category.
yeah,
Show me you can do it in the regular season.
and durability. And they're like, I know they don't have to bang in the post, but they still have to run on 7 foot legs. Being the 7 foot
Seven
tall
foot
person,
five.
yeah, that's just weird physics and dynamics on the body. So I don't know. It's tough to
And
say.
here's another question when you talk about both home Chet and Wembenyama. How is being in a losing environment going to affect both of these youngsters and their mindset going into the season?
Do you think that both will be in a losing sort of franchise mindset for the next
I
season?
think Oklahoma I think Oklahoma's this close. I don't know if they're there yet. I like Lou Dort. I love Shea Gilchrist Alexander, but I don't know if Oklahoma necessarily has the tools to be competitive in a very tough Western Conference just yet.
Yeah, that's very true. It's like, would you choose to compete this year with what you have? Or would you kind of just dial it back a bit so that you can get a nice draft pick again and really assess?
Well, I don't believe in dialing back. Like I'm going to take my 12 guys and try to win,
Mm,
but at the same time, I think the West is just too deep for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
yeah, that's interesting. And San Antonio, my biggest. I don't want to be jumping too quick, but they're both in similar positions in that their timelines that they've designed are pretty freaking long timelines, are they not? Like um, Popovich being the best coach, quote unquote,
Hey, hey,
really
oh, hey.
certainly
Are we taking
legendary.
shots at Pop now?
No, no, no shots. Just saying he's got a timeline too. Like, how long does he have to form a foundation along with Wembenyama?
Well,
You
Pop
know,
just signed a brand new 5-year deal, so Pop's not going anywhere.
you can sign a deal, but are you getting the best pop for 5 years? You hope so. But, it's 5 years is a long time, especially in modern times. The way things go is,
Here's my
yeah,
here's my hypothetical dream scenario.
okay.
And this is me just there's no foundation for this, there's no logic, nothing. This is just me overthinking things, galaxy braining it, if you will.
I like it. New
You
term.
have Pop you have Pop lead the Spurs for the next 2 seasons, right? Well, he forms the foundation for the Spurs and the franchise and the direction they're headed.
Hmm.
And then you pick up the phone and you make this little phone call to a guy who I think is overdue for a job in Mark Jackson, and you have Mark Jackson lead the Spurs after they've been led by Pop for 2 years, and you give Mark Jackson 5 years of runway, and then
Hmm.
I think the Spurs are in good shape. There's no basis for that analogy. There's nothing, but that is my dream scenario for the San Antonio Spurs.
But you got a Hall of Fame coach in Mark Jackson, and he's a gentle hand. And I think that's what the modern NBA players seem to need is that sort of gentle approach of some kind, either really youthful or more of an older, gentler presence and stuff. So I can see that working, but I don't know if they have the roster, do they? Like, that's such
After 2 years of struggling, they might have a couple of good draft picks and they can make trades to acquire more assets. I think in 2 years, Mark Jackson will have the Spurs ready to roll.
if you call that's going to be a heck of a receipt to have if that somehow ended up happening. But
I
yeah,
don't, but here's the thing, I don't believe it's going to happen. That's just my dream scenario because I think Mark Jackson deserves another job in the NBA. I said it from the time he left Golden State, and I will continue to beat the drum on Mark Jackson's behalf.
hey, I respect that. I'm just concerned for Wemby when I start thinking about it. I don't see it in a 2 or 3 year window. I'm looking 5 years. If he's going to be the guy, that
No,
means
no,
they can't
that's what I
get any
said.
other
That's what I
superstar.
said. You give Pop 2 years,
Yeah,
right? And then you transition to Jackson for the next five.
yeah, that's
That sets that sets the Spurs up for 7 years of good coaching, and I
uh,
see them being rock solid after that.
if they can develop a roster. I think it feels very much like it's Wemby and a question mark, just a
And a
big
bunch of guys.
yeah, it's Wemby and guys, and it's like, all right, man. Some NBA teams have been molding their guys as a unit for years as like 25, 30-year-old superstars forming together, and now you're going to have a nothing roster with a unusual dynamic player, and you need him to be relevant within 2 years, and you got nobody. What am I not
I
seeing?
I like I like my 7-year plan, but that would be a heck of a receipt, wouldn't it, if Mark Jackson takes over the San Antonio Spurs?
Man, it would be maybe the receipt. That would, that would be tough to beat. Uh, I just don't. Yeah, I'm gonna maybe take pause on to say with the New Orleans thing too. It seems like a franchise that's a bit doomed, and in some way that yeah, they've got all these picks, they've got all this great young talent, but it doesn't seem like they have a super tangible way to like elevate themselves to an elite. Look out for us. We're serious. We're a contender team. Like that seems like a decade away still for some reason, despite Dort, Shea, Chet, coaching, dynamic. Like I don't know. I just don't see it. Do you?
For Oklahoma,
Yeah.
I don't really see it for Oklahoma either, because I think what happened to us with Shea aside, because Shea's that dude. Shea's that guy.
Let's
But
hope he's
I
not
think we got.
Dame, man.
But I think because of our Canadian roots, we kind of got caught up in the Lou Dort hype a little bit.
He's a poor
And
man's OG at this point, and OG is still, not a.
and I think Chet is going to be a little bit underwhelming for the Thunder this year. But we have an entire season preview episode we can get into
They,
all the mess.
they weren't on my list, but I made a little headline saying "Once upon a time in the West," right? And then I chose 4 teams from the West. Cautionary
Right.
tales. Cautionary tales of bold moves and ways to build a team. Who will end up where, and who has more to prove/lose. So as your options, you could good, bad, and the ugly, and blow it up as your 4 options. And here's the teams: T-Wolves, Mavs, Clippers, Lakers. Good, bad, ugly, and blow it up are your options.
And I get to pick one for each.
Yeah.
Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah.
So once I pick one, I can't pick another one.
Yeah. So if you
Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah, so if you said you like the Lakers team, they've done a great job building themselves for success and stuff, maybe there you're good. You know what I'm saying? Then the other one would have to be a bad, ugly.
Okay, what are the 4 options again?
So T-Wolves,
T-Wolves,
Mavs,
Mavs,
and your 2 LAs.
and the 2 LAs. Okay, so I'm going to say to blow it up would be the Clippers. I have to say it because the Clippers are that team, and I believe I said this last week as well in a different form. But the Clippers are that team that just can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And they need to blow it up and start over. I'm sorry, that's just how it is.
Do you think they
I
will?
huh?
Do you think they will?
No, because they'll just continue to get in their own way. Because Steve Ballmer's a billionaire and he doesn't care. Because as long as they're competitive and he thinks he can win, that's going to be the Clippers' issue.
Yeah.
The bad that goes to Minnesota because they're just always bad. It doesn't seem to matter what they do; they're always bad. And
That,
even if they do make the playoffs, they're out in round 1 because they don't know what they're doing.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're that mid team. You know what I mean? They're that mid team that
Purgatory.
some, huh?
Yeah, mid-level purgatory, where it's like,
They're that mid level purgatory team. That's exactly what they are. Some years they're gonna make the playoffs, other years they're gonna miss the playoffs, but they're always gonna be hovering right around that point.
I'd
So the
compare them
bad goes
to
to
OKC.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. I'd compare Minnesota to OKC almost, where it's like they've got some nice pieces, they've got some interesting things, but the Gobert, the Holmgren, I'm like, I don't know about those being like foundational pieces, and you need
So
everything.
I've used my blow it up and I've used my bad. What are my other 2 options? The good
So,
and the
the ugly.
the
So,
ugly.
yeah, yeah,
You
yes.
know what? You know what? I'm gonna surprise you.
Okay,
I think the Lakers situation could get really ugly real fast.
interesting. Okay, okay. From the Lakers die.
You didn't see that coming, did you?
No, but I know you're
Here's
on it. But I didn't think you'd bend yet. It's early, so I'm curious what you're seeing.
okay. Here's what I'm seeing. Street Clothes is going to play 30 to 40 games, so automatically you're down 1 big for half the season.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Wood at best is a question mark. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you're going to get from him. Austin Reeves can give you 20, but he can also score you 12,
Mm.
depending on the night.
And it can also get
Hachim-
lit up.
Hachimura, inconsistent shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do think that if the Lakers struggle out the gate early, it could get real ugly real fast. LeBron does not like to lose, and as soon as he does, the Laker turmoil could get awfully, awfully ugly real fast.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that leaves a default position for the Mavs.
And here's why I say the Mavs are good
Yeah.
right now. Because in Dallas, right now, I love you, Mark Cuban, but your goal is not winning.
Mm.
And that's why I put the Mavs in the good category. Because if your franchise is only about making the playoffs and looking competitive, Mark Cuban's doing it right because he's got Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic,
Mm.
and he's gonna sell tickets. They may make the playoffs for a round or two, depending on who they draw in the first round,
Mm.
and that's all they care about. They're not trying to win. They showed us that last year. So the Mavs, for organizational purposes, are good because they're not trying to be bad, but they're not trying to win either.
That's a heck of an interesting take. I haven't heard that before. Like it's like a almost a compliment to say like, well, at least you know what you're doing and what you've chosen to do. You're walking that path, and that's something to be said. Whereas, got like Clippers, you said you wanted to win, but you're doing nothing to make that happen. Whereas,
No,
I
and they were my blow it up choice, weren't they?
yeah, so that logic kind of holds up. Where my immediate reaction would have been like, Mavs, one of the bad choices, but under that perspective, it actually makes sense. It's kind of an ultimate insult to the whole organization, franchise, and the competition of basketball. But if they don't care about that, then I guess they are successful in that sense that they've got two-star players that don't care about the championship, don't care about getting like better as a team. It's kind of
I'm
perfect.
taking it from a different perspective.
I like it. I like it.
I'm looking at organizational goals as well as where I think they should be.
I like that. Organizational goals. I mean, yeah, fans would Mavs fans love to hear that their organization's goals are to not win a championship, or do you think they can
I
still?
don't think I don't think Mavs fans want to believe that their team doesn't want to win. My brother's a Mavs fan, and
Mm,
he always will be. It's like me and the Lakers. I couldn't break away if I tried.
mm,
But in the interest of being authentic, I have to call it like I see it. And the Mavs are going to be that team that makes the playoffs, probably get out in the first round, depending on who they draw.
true,
They
true.
might get into the second round, and Cuban will be happy. Mavs fans will be like, this is why we held on to our number 10 pick. It's like a magic trick. Mavs fans will be happy because they're like, we're not in the play in. We got our number 10 pick. We accomplished our goal. And that's the greatest trick Mark Cuban will pull on the Dallas Mavericks fans is they'll be happy because look how much we improved from last year. We
It,
didn't even get in last year. We're a second round team this year.
and he's definitely the guy that thinks he's outsmarted people by doing that. Like he seems like he would be playing a few different games. Like I'm thinking back to when he tried suing the NBA. Was that last year, or he got sued by the NBA for?
Oh no, he got fined for dropping an F bomb and then he matched the donation to charity on top of that. So
Okay, when he was calling out the refs or something for a.
he cursed on live TV.
Oh yeah. Oh, do you remember that play though, where they inbounded it and Dallas was lined up in defense on the opposing side, and it was just
Yeah.
and he was losing it because he was like, "Oh, you didn't tell our players this and that," when really they were so checked out. that they are under the
Yeah,
wrong basket.
but you see, that's what I'm saying. The greatest trick he's gonna pull on Mavs fans is, look, we're trying to win. We brought in Kyrie. We re-signed Kyrie. We've got Luca, who's a top 5 offensive player in the league, and we're trying to win. But really, they're not trying to win. They're trying to sell tickets and make playoff revenue. They're not trying to win a chip.
Dang, that's all, the ultimate throwdown. But I see no argument there. Like I can't argue that. But I hope there's a Mavs fan out there that will take it personally and try to.
I put thought into my takes, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope there's somebody out there that can fire back at you because if, Mavs fans represent. I hope that you can say something.
In the comment.
For you. I got nothing. I don't even know who their third best player is right now. I'm not sure they do have one.
It's me because I'm telling the truth.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question here's a truth question. Harden goes to the Heat. Is it so crazy it might just work?
No.
No? Okay.
It won't work. It's like saying if Kyrie goes to, I don't know, who's a contender out west?
Lakers?
If Kyrie goes to the Lakers, is it going to work? No. Because, the thing with Harden and Kyrie, and this is my true serum to the rest of the NBA fans, they don't care about us. They don't care about the league. They don't care about chips. They're in it for themselves. And as long as they're in the headlines and they can make their money, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I'm coming with a lot of truth today, man.
Hey, the truth is a heavy thing. But man, sometimes it needs to be said, and there's a lot of that in the NBA that they could probably use some truth here and there. Like the Raptors, it seems like they've swallowed some truth and they've addressed it in some capacity. I'm thinking back to that game with Sacramento, seeing Schroeder just really taking that leadership role, seeing Scotty Barnes get up in it a couple times.
Here's the thing, because I've been hard on the Raptors over the last 5 weeks, as you know. I have been.
Fair, yeah.
And I'm gonna say this right now. I'm rooting for me to be wrong about this team.
Yeah, they've got.
I'm rooting.
Yeah, they've got a heck of a roster. Like they've got a.
But they got something to prove.
Yeah.
They got to prove it. It's a prove it year for the Raptors.
Big time. There's a one that's like, if you can't do it this year, it's blow it up. Big time.
You can't blow it up. You just gave Jakob Poeltl $80 million.
Yeah, no, they're locked in for this lineup, but if it doesn't work this year, then you got to blow it up. But
That is going to be a lot of pain for the next 3 years.
I don't think it'll happen. I think they've got a new core here. With that coach, he seems like laser focused with a positive general kind of vibe. I think that's going to work well for those young players. I see it kind of resonating, right? You got OG and Trent kind of being the mature, but not old, right? They're just experienced now.
Here's another question. Will I have my little raptor with the crown in the background, which I love?
Yeah.
They're going to be unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. What do you see this Raptor team doing? One, if they're out of it at the deadline, and two, if they're in it at the deadline.
I've got like I said, I'm putting a lot of stock into that first game, and I think they're going to sign them both again because they're going to have breakout years, and sure, that'll eat up a bunch of the budget, but you don't have anything else really to worry about, right? Like you have just tradesmen to fill in your roster, but your core would be OG, Scotty, Pascal, and Trent. And like that's a solid 4-piece. And Poeltl, I guess. That's 5. That's a great starting 5. With that 6 man I'm missing here. think off the top of my head, but what do you think of Grady Dick and the crowd and the whole TikTok sensation? It's social media is a whole new world with this. He's getting Linsanity.
I can't roll my eyes, but this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
What did the
And
coach call it?
but with that being said, I understand it, if that makes any sense. It is the
Yes,
dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. The only thing that's worse right now, the only thing that's worse right now is Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift being all over my TV.
I was
It
literally
is
just going to say that.
You are right up there. You are competing neck and neck with Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. That's how mad I am at this whole thing. It's stupid. It's juvenile, but it is what it is.
It's so funny. Exactly what you said. You understand it. It's like, man, the Taylor Swift Travis Kelsey thing is mind-bogglingly stupid. Yet I get it. There's just this pandemonium that follows her around, and it's real.
Is that a fair comparison? Did I make a fair comparison there?
Yes, 100%. It was the first one that came to my mind because it's crowd psychology. It's people losing their freaking minds in a group setting, right? They're not just at home. They're doing it together, and it becomes this like blob, right? They become like just crazy for it, even though there's not that much substance there. He's just an average rookie 3-point shooter, but he has the thing that people lose their minds for, which is, I don't know, the flavor of the day, TikTok stuff. Genius, I guess, on his part from a marketing thing. Like,
Marketing wise, hey, it's brilliant. I'm not. And
yeah,
here's the thing, I'm always the guy on the player's side that's saying get the bag. If you can get the bag, take the bag.
he's getting
Uh,
and a
but I
freaking
think it's ridiculous. I think it's going to be a fad. Let's face it, it's going to be a fad. Things like this can only run for so long.
yeah.
But as far as Grady goes, I'm happy for you, man. I think it's ridiculous, but I'm happy for you
I love that the coach called it
because,
cute.
and I'll tell you why I'm happy for Grady, and it's because he's going to be an average NBA player, I believe, and this is his 15 minutes of fame. Much
Totally.
like not unlike Linsanity.
Yeah, and it's not from nothing, right? It's not that he won a random number and is now just getting these reactions. It's not that he has a funny face and it's that he put his personality on display over and over again as a very silly but open person, and that takes courage. Whatever you want to say about it, a lot of people don't have that courage to just be a fool to
It's
look a
like
fool.
William Hung. You
Yeah,
remember William Hung
yeah,
from American Idol?
man, the courage
Same
to
type of deal. He put himself out there. He got his 15 minutes of fame. He sold
yeah.
a few records, good for him, and the world moved on.
Oh, Grady, if you're out there, don't listen to him. You're better than William Hung. You're at least you're at least
But
double
hey,
plus.
Grady, if you're listening, give me two things. Grady, I want two things. If you somehow stumble across this podcast, don't forget to A, subscribe to the channel, and B, give me an at the buzzer sound clip we can use as an intro for this podcast. That would be awesome.
Respect level will be risen
Huh?
immediately. The respect level will go up immediately. That's the fair exchange. We'll talk good stuff.
See, I'm after the bag too. I know that Grady giving us a voice clip will give us more viewers and subscribers.
Man, I kept my eyes out. I was doing a delivery all weekend there around Vancouver, man. I was like, this is the time to run into him. I'm going to get that. But hey, speaking of grading, deep cut players to watch, we're talking 10th spot on the roster type guys. Is there anybody else in the NBA that you want to bring to the attention of me or whoever else that we might not have heard of,
Um,
should have heard of?
yeah. Well, there's always going to be an Austin Reeves somewhere.
Mm,
There's always that guy at the end of the bench that just comes in, gives you 20, and becomes the spark plug of the championship team. I can't tell you who that's going to be, but I've been thinking about this, and with the addition of Steady Freddie Van Fleet, that 10th man off the bench could come from the Houston Rockets. So, as far as teams to watch, you asked me earlier, as far as teams to watch just for an entertainment value of it all, I'm
yes.
going to pick the Houston Rockets. Is that fair?
Fantastic choice because I want to see what Scoot is capable of. I think he's a man coming in a youthful body, and it's like, oh, with Freddie behind you and Dylan Brooks and some pieces to play with, I think it'd be fun to watch. I think it'd be really fun
And
to watch.
to be fair, I'm not expecting Houston to win. I'm not expecting Houston to be competitive. But just from a strictly entertainment value aspect of it all, they're
Dude,
gonna be a hoot to watch every night.
I got goosebumps almost. I don't want to oversell it, but there's something about Freddie that I love dearly. And talk about no expectations. Nobody expected Freddie to freaking do anything ever. And he's made how much money? $100 million? Like bet on
Well, I
yourself.
think you and I think you and I might be the president and vice president of the Steady Freddie Van fan club there.
Man.
But I always said I'm happy Freddie got his money, but I'm also happy the Raptors weren't the team to give it to him.
Yeah, because they're on different timelines, I think, for who he is, right? He's somebody that's gonna bring you up to a whole different level. Like he's a change agent, I think, right? Like
But I
Raptors.
said it before. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Steady Freddie, we love you. We're rooting for you. Give him heck in Houston. And again, much like Grady, if you hear this podcast, give us a sound clip and we'll be much obliged.
Facts, man, and we'll send all that love out to Houston. It's not that far. We got love for Freddie wherever he goes.
No, man, and that's the thing. Like for me, I'm Lakers purple and gold till the day they put me in the ground. But I do have my players that I grow attachments to that don't necessarily play for the franchise I root for, if that makes any sense.
Most
I
definitely,
think that's just a part I think that's just a part of being a fan of the league.
man. I saw something nasty on the clips from today. Speaking of college guys, Paolo Banchero from Duke going up against Zion and the New Orleans Pelicans tonight. Paolo caught it on the elbow, took one step and threw it down hard on Jonas Valanciunas, like a mean one. Like
Oh
probably
man, it had to be on Jonas.
he even looked defeated. He was like, "Damn, dude!" Like he's like, "It's preseason,
That
dude."
that's a shame because I like Jonas.
Hey, that's a great battle there. I think of those two teams a little bit. New Orleans is my pick for entertainment value because I am so curious what Zion's gonna do. Like I wanted to catch that game today just to see what he looks like, because he's the
I
biggest
almost I
factor.
almost said Charlotte because of Lamelo.
Yeah,
I
Brandon Miller.
want to see what Charlotte's gonna do. But Houston wins overall because they're just such a question mark. They could go out and go 22-60, or they could surprise the world and go 51-31. It
Honestly,
just depends on how everything clicks. And for the record, I'm leaning more towards the 22-60 than I am the 51-31.
I'm
But
sure they
stranger
are
things have
too.
happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they are too in terms of the organization. But I think Idoka, Freddie, and a few of those other guys are probably like you in the sense that I don't know if they have a gear that is like chill out, coast. I feel like it's either you're going max or you're burnt out in terms of Freddie at least. And he's going to make it interesting, I think, one way or another. Scoot is such a dynamic. I was watching a few of his clips of a guy breaking down his game, his strengths, his weaknesses, but his strengths are so exciting. Like, man, good pick.
That's the thing. Like, I watch certain teams just for the sheer joy of the game.
Portland, watch for Shaden Sharp, man. He's gonna freaking kill. He's gonna murder some people this year. Like his hops are stupid.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I know I said our season preview show is next week, and it will be. And I know this is sounding like a season preview show, but we're getting so close, man. We're 2 weeks away from jump, and
Man,
I'm so excited. And
yo,
if you're a basketball fan, why you're not subscribed to this channel, I don't know yet.
yeah, you got to feel that enthusiasm. How can you not? It's
But
man, injuries,
there's just so
injuries.
many unknowns going into this season too.
Talk about unknowns, injuries. It's the least fun topic of conversation because one, it's so devastating when it happens, and two, it's out of everybody's control, and we never
And
really know the full story. But
and three, you don't want anything to happen to anybody.
no, never, truly. No matter how despicable the team or the player, you never want to see anything like that. Uh, yeah, but I think it is an influential factor across the board. But maybe we'll save that for the season preview too.
Well, I have one question when it comes to injuries that I wasn't gonna save for the season preview show.
Yeah.
Most most likely injury prone player to stay healthy this season. A player that
Ew.
is perennial a player that is perennially injured
Ooh.
that you think can stay healthy for the majority of the season.
Who I think and who I hope. I hope Zion. Who I think. That's a great question. You know what? I'm going to do a hot take. This is going to be spicy. I was going to say Kawhi, but now I'm like, that's almost too spicy. Paul
Also
George, perhaps.
inaccurate, probably.
What's that?
I said it's also probably inaccurate if you pick Kawhi.
Yeah, more than likely. I feel like he's too stubborn. He has no incentive to be that guy. Um, that's a great question. Who's on your mind? Who do you got?
I like you. I hope it's Zion. I and just for the simple fact, I want to see what he can do for a full season
Man,
of
yep,
whatever he's capable of. I just want to I want to know what the baseline for Zion is, if that makes any sense.
completely. And I think everybody really does. Like he's so exciting, but we had no idea what the baseline is.
But you know who my pick is to stay healthy this year?
Ooh,
Joel Embiid.
ooh,
I think Joel Embiid is going to stay healthy this year. I think he's going to play at least 70 games, and I think he's going to carry Philly to the playoffs.
dang. Do you think he's got enough juice to go the full playoffs after that?
No, I said he'd carry them to the playoffs. I
With
never said he'd do damage in the playoffs. But I think he's going to play 70 games this year.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna put that as a receipt because I don't think so. I think he's one. He's not going to play in Denver when it's against Jokic because he's rightfully afraid that he's going to get lit up every single time, and that when people look back on the records of like, oh, who is the better center, they'll look at a record of every single time Embiid was in Denver losing.
See, I have the opposite take on this, and here's why.
Yeah.
I think he's heard everybody for the last 2 years say you're avoiding Jokic. You're avoiding Jokic. You're avoiding Jokic. And I heard it over and over and over again. And
Yeah,
I think he's going to come out mad, and we're going to get mad Joel. And mad Joel will have a heck of a game against Jokic. That's what I'm banking on.
that's what the price of admission would be right there. Is like, let's see if he steps up. But
That's
everything that we've seen thus far, if we're going on patterns, is that he's a lot of talk, a lot of bravado, and then he'll just disappear.
I'm
And have,
putting my chips in the middle.
yeah, no, I like
And
that.
I don't even like Philly.
No, I got respect for Embiid. He's easily one of the top players in the NBA, but I see his consistent sort of like just can't get through that wall type of thing.
He'll
Maybe
miss
this year.
12 games or less this year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I still like that as a good pick for non-injured. The other ones are so tough because they're all so almost guaranteed to be injured.
Why do you think I picked the question?
Yeah, that's a fantastic brain twister because man, I don't have confidence saying anyone. Um,
You think I'm coming to this podcast with no questions to ask you?
you know, that stumped that completely stumped me on that one there. Yeah. Anyways,
Well, let's get to another question I got for you.
okay.
Favorite arena you could watch an NBA game in? Where's your ideal location to watch an NBA game? If
Interesting.
you could pick any of the 30 stadiums in the league.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, such a boring answer, but my initial instinct was the garden, just because of all the associations with it, all the freaking, I don't know,
Oh, I
legend
thought you were gonna go a different way.
Raptor.
I'm gonna give you a spicy answer here.
Okay.
I'm gonna say just based on the atmosphere of the playoffs that I saw yesterday or last year, to watch a game in Sacramento with that crowd being that boisterous would be absolutely insane.
Hmm.
I'd love to catch a game in Sacramento.
You know, they were pretty lit for the playoffs. I remember that they were geared up. Uh,
They were geared up, man.
I like Sacramento as a team. Yeah, they've got a lot of positive things going for them. That see, they're a team that I feel can break through that mid-level purgatory because they got those key
Well,
foundations.
that's why I'm trolling Kings fans now because I think they're gonna win 50 games and they're gonna be very good this year, and they'll probably beat the Raptors both times they play them. So I'm just
There's where we part ways because I think the Raptors got their number this year. This was the first.
oh, that's a spicy meatball.
I think I think they've got specifically Sacramento because they match up really well against them, and they're just a little bit older and a bit more experienced overall as the team. So that's a game I would consistently like to see the Raptors win, but we'll see. So what
Well,
was
the
the
Raptors have a history of games they're supposed to win and coming up short.
yeah, and I'd like to think that's going to be the past in terms of what that right? That there's at least some new culture that's been implemented. They're not lying to themselves and saying, "Oh, we just got to try harder." It's like, no, you needed to have surgery on your team and reassess everything and change your culture. So I'm glad they did that, and that gives them a chance for something, for a fresh start of some kind, right? Um, Man, I heard a great thing. I got a question on maybe the arena side, but also the social media side. I heard a hot take from, I think it was JJ Redick, saying there's too many cameras everywhere. There's too much social media content. Like teams don't have a chance to develop actual bonds and chemistry, and players don't have a chance to really just develop outside of constant surveillance in a sense of like chosen, yeah, but is there anything interesting in there as a take for you in terms of is that just an old man being
Yeah,
grumpy?
I got 2 words for you. Grow up.
Yeah.
Grow up. It's the landscape we live in.
Yeah.
That's what it is. No, that's
Yeah.
what it is. I'm sorry, JJ. That's what it is. It's the landscape we live in. And you can say 30 years ago, Michael never had to deal with this. I don't care. Grow up, JJ. You know better than to make a take like that.
Does it hurt me?
And you know what you sign up for when you come to this league.
Yeah.
You know this, JJ. You played, brother. You played, brother.
And
You
it,
know better than this.
yeah, I like he talked about it when he was saying back in the locker room when he was there and cell phones started becoming a big thing. They were trying to figure that out, and then I was like, all right, cats, yeah, this is not going back in the bag. Everybody's going to be doing this now. It was like a transition time, and he's like, kind of now it's like so one way that can you develop some of the more intimate stuff behind the scenes that could really set you apart and build you for those long runs.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
can.
question, but I don't know if
No,
it
look,
hurts NBA.
listen, listen, JJ. One adult to another, and I hope somebody forwards you this. Even though I'm a peanut gallery nobody, I gotta say this. You can still have your team bonding dinners. You can still have your team bonding bowling nights. Nobody's if you're worried about if you're worried about a cell phone camera in your face, brother, you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah,
JJ, you work for ESPN.
yeah.
Cameras are following you everywhere. Because you know what, JJ? Let me put it to a real world example here. Well, I'm talking directly to JJ Reddick. So somebody, if you know JJ, please send him this. You work for ESPN. Look, if you mess up, TMZ is gonna be there.
Mm.
And TMZ is ruthless. Far more ruthless than this cake's gonna be. So grow up, JJ. You know what you signed up for. You're a public figure. Act like it.
Boom. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna have a better take than that on that. I didn't have one way or another. I was just more or less curious, but that's a good take. So you're saying totally irrelevant, shouldn't even be brought up as an adult issue. Um, People should just handle their own business, eh? Essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
It's
can respect that. I think everybody should.
because look, um, I hate to break it to you, but we're on a podcast,
Hmm.
and we're gonna send this out to the people that watch this podcast, and some of them might write mean comments about us. That's what we get for putting our opinions on a platform.
Yeah, that was the Kyrie thing, right? It's like, well, if you're going to put your opinion out there, people are going to respond to it. So you can't get upset when people respond to the things that you say, right? It's like you're putting it out there. You know you have a platform, so you can't pretend that it wasn't going to influence people in the way that they want to respond.
And I guarantee you, as this podcast grows and gets bigger and the channel gets bigger, there are going to be people that hate watch us, right? It comes with the territory. But I'll tell you this, G, their hate watches still help us out. That's the trade-off. You can hate watch us all you want, but you're still helping us.
Hey, American presidents have been elected based on that theory.
It's a silly conversation to be having.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. It's one that came up for me because I do find social media stuff so interesting and how quickly it evolves and changes things around the league, changes the business, changes the dynamics. But maybe it doesn't change it that much. It's just more or less interesting that it, will have an effect like on a Grady Dick, where suddenly, it's not a huge effect, but it is a noticeable thing that's happening. Doesn't mean it's good or bad. Doesn't mean it's that much influential, but it's just
You know what JJ's problem is. You know what JJ's problem is. JJ's problem is He wants to protect the guys who don't know how to use social media properly.
All his old buddies. Yeah. And
Huh?
yeah, it could be. It could be. And it could just be
I
the
mean,
old man thing, right? Where
I
it's
mean, is it a coincidence that he makes these statements after what's happened with John Morant?
yeah,
After what's happened with Lemon Pepper Lou, as we like to call him nowadays. Is
yeah.
it a coincidence that after all these incidents, JJ's going, oh, social media's gone too far?
What was the
Poor
event with
JJ Redick.
Sharp showed up at the Philly practice and they filmed it or something, and that was what set him off. Coach something, Coach Prime. Is that it?
Oh, Dion
Yeah,
Sanders?
Dion. Yeah, and that was what set him off. And I didn't even see that clip in
It
particular.
comes with the territory, JJ.
Yeah.
And I hate to do this because I'm a Duke Blue Devil for life. And JJ, I love you, but you're just flat out wrong on this one.
Hey, let's spin that question one more and say, do you think social media can be used as a tool from players and teams against teams as like a, mental psychological warfare for games and stuff?
Yeah, but it could backfire too.
Big time. Do you
Because
think? Yeah.
okay, let me put it to you like this. If somebody came to me and said, why are you doing this podcast? It only gets 30 views a week, whatever. You're not gonna do anything with it. I'd be like, oh yeah? Yeah, you think so? Watch me. And I'll do 100, 200 episodes of this podcast, whatever you're willing to do.
Hey,
But I'm gonna make this thing work. Doubt me. I'm that dude.
free food, right? It's like, give me more.
Right?
Yeah, that's the
My
mentality.
my point is bringing this back to basketball is all you're doing is giving them bulletin board material.
Mm, interesting. To something to motivate. Yeah, like this is what they're saying about us. Like Mike Malone was using that as his psychology, right? Really playing up that they're disrespected, that they're out of the conversation, and it's like, yeah, everybody knows, nobody really cares, but he used that as a psychological tool to like get inside other teams' heads, but also his own. I think just to either get the chip on the shoulder or to make other teams be like, these guys are ridiculous. Why are they whining? And just kind of play a bit of a mind game. But
See, so you can try to use social media to get the upper hand, but it could backfire on you. Because remember, once you put it to tape, it's out there.
man, yeah. Is there any legendary feuds going on right now that have started on Twitter or any social media stuff like that?
Social media beef. I gotta be honest. I try to stay away from that as much as I humanly can.
Yeah,
Like I get that Twitter's a toxic wasteland and Instagram's just for people who want to look pretty.
yeah, yeah. I don't have either, so I'm not familiar with it either. But I was curious if there was any crossover. I'll have to let my nephew explain
I,
to me if there is.
I'm sure there is. Like I'm sure there's players that go back and forth, but I'm not in it for the I'm in it for the league drama. I'm not in it for the personal drama.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Boston Celtics starting lineup, not including Drew Holiday, is that par for the season?
I would say basically what you're looking at is might be what you get on opening night minus Drew Holiday.
Do you think
Because
he's?
if you look at the Celtics roster, they traded away a lot of their depth to get Drew Holiday.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Pritchard was a nice locking him in. They've developed him for 3 years consistently, just focusing on his development. And now he got his contract. Cool to see that. Weird that Drew Holiday starting though. That's a twist I wasn't expecting. I mean, quite a sixth man. I mean, holy.
No, I really think Drew will be starting.
Okay.
I'm just saying that if you're looking at the Celtics, if you put Drew in that starting lineup, there's not much coming off the bench.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's very true. So if he's coming off the bench, then yeah, you do have that balance between a really strong uh, starting five and then him leading whoever because it doesn't matter. But yeah, Boston. I'm still curious to see how that unfolds. But Porzingis looked better than I think a lot of people thought he was going to look first
It's
game in the Celtics.
preseason.
Yeah, yeah.
It's preseason.
So you're
You
saying
got
you're not buying that stock then yet?
no. I see. Here's the thing. I asked the question about the rookies in the second years about the stock
Mm,
because I don't know what they are yet, and I'm interested to see what other people's takes are.
mm.
When it comes to somebody like Kristaps Porzingis, and again, I wish the brother nothing but the best, and I hope he proves me wrong. But I've seen enough of Kristaps to know what Kristaps is, and you're not fooling me with one or two good preseason games.
That's a true NBA fan there that has seen enough. Yeah, that they remember him in a Knicks jersey. People don't forget. Just say that.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to be wrong so badly for Kristaps' sake.
I don't mind seeing Boston go down in a pit of flames. That's fine. Um,
No, individually. I mean,
yeah, no, we wish
I
it was the
I
best.
as a Laker fan don't. I as a Laker fan don't want the Celtics can go 0-82 for all I care.
Yeah, yeah, just like Atlanta's about to, or something like that.
Pe- people ask me, is there ever a situation you would root for the Celtics? And I came up with one scenario, just one.
Okay.
If our if our season was over and we needed the Celtics to win to get us into the playoffs, then I'd root for the Celtics for one night.
But that would be two different conferences, wouldn't it?
No, I'm saying if they were playing in a Western Conference team
Oh,
that
the
they had
Lakers.
to beat for us to get in,
Oh, yes. Okay, I follow.
then I would root for the Celtics. Other than that, 0-82.
Fair, fair. And yeah, who knows? Who knows?
People, people who don't understand the Lakers and Celtics rivalry and how deep it goes almost offend me.
It's foundation for the game, isn't it? I guess it can make
No,
whatever. Like
and
Duke, North
and
Carolina.
I'm not trying to speak on. I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper in the NBA because I just told you the casual fan is the lifeblood of the league that it runs on.
That it
But
is.
what I am saying is, if you don't know the importance of the Lakers Celtics rivalry, please don't speak on it.
Mm, yeah,
Please don't speak on it.
yeah. It's gonna have to request some Lakers and Celtics fans to join us at some point. Do a little roundabout debate on who's the greatest team of all time, but we'll save that for a
Well,
special.
the Celtics fans could speak, but then they'd be wrong. So, you know.
Hey, it goes around. Is there any other preseason shots that you've seen so far that have caught your attention or like gotten you extra?
Uh, it's just the graded dick thing caught my attention. The LeBron James thing caught my attention. The Raptors beating the Kings, I had to have a little fun with because. And Sacramento fans, I'm trolling you simply because you're gonna win 50 games. You're gonna finish third in the West, and you're gonna be all right. So I'm having a little fun tonight. So that's what I have to say to Sacramento fans.
But we did take your
By the
crown.
way, isn't the Raptors supposed to be purple?
I
It's
mean,
green.
the original Raptor is purple, but these days it's all about rebranding. So you could send that to them and say, "Hey, special edition jersey.
Special edition
That
jersey.
could be the Vancouver edition. The
The Vancouver edition. I love it. But
yeah.
no, it's look, I'm happy to to sink my teeth into something. But I'm not getting all wired up for preseason basketball.
Mm. So you don't
But
have an issue
my
with
only
sitting and all that. Some of the star players like Dame and Giannis and Embiid and stuff.
look, my stance is not much different from the regular season. However, I will say, and I'm not trying to sound hypocritical here, if you buy a preseason ticket, understand that the stars naturally won't play as much.
Mm.
The reason I get offended during the regular season is because those are paycheck games, number one. Number two, they're expected to play more.
Mm.
And number three, it affects the integrity of the league.
Those are excellent points. What about the like just not even playing? Like so it's okay, no expectation for Giannis to play 30 minutes or anything, but zero? I mean maybe
That
not.
I might have. Look, if I'm buying a ticket to a preseason game, I accept the risk. But based on what you're saying, I'd like Giannis to trot out there for not a major portion of the game, but can you give me uh 10 minutes?
I was just going to say, is 10 minutes too much to ask to just show solidarity with the team? So, this is more the question targeting the players. Is that leadership by just taking the night off because you can? It's sort of that like when eyes are off of you, are you still practicing your hardest or are you doing it so that you get validation and stuff? And like, I don't know. It seems like everybody got permission to skip the first preseason game. But if I was a young guy, I'd be looking at that and going, oh, so it's like that. So you work your way up and then you don't have to care anymore and you get to coast, make your own rules. I'm going to try to do that route rather than
Well,
you have to be a sacrifice still. Even when you're a GOAT, you still have to show up. That's the message I would want to send to my young guys, not
well,
bougie life. You're back to work.
here's how I'm oversimplifying this, obviously. But take this podcast for example. I text you on Thanksgiving, which was yesterday here in Canada, and I said, "Hey, happy Thanksgiving. Hope everything's good. Are we still filming tomorrow?" So that you knew, as the owner of this channel and the host of the podcast, I'm in.
Mm.
Are
Yeah.
you in? Yeah, we're in. It wasn't. It wasn't because I needed to do it because I could have texted you this morning and said, "Are we filming?"
Mm.
Well, I got you the day before and I said, "Are we in? Do we have to change days? What do we have to do here?" But I just want to make sure that my team knows that I'm pulling the wagon with them.
Exactly my point here is that you're leading it. You're showing a certain lead of the project or whatever because somebody at every different moment needs to be that person. And I get that the preseason is just that. It's preseason and they're trying to focus on the guys that don't get playing time so that they can see who's making the team, see how guys work
That's what
together.
summer league is for.
Exactly. It like you're supposed to have shown up to work come September long weekend under the NBA rules. So what is this? Oh, we'll show up when the regular season starts. Yet all the Steph Currys, the Jokic's, they're all
You
playing.
know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of this scenario. Okay, let's say I created the studio because for those of you who don't know, I have to create a new link every time, right?
Mm,
Let's say I created the link and I sent it to you, right? And G logs in and he's all ready to go. And I said, okay, G, I'm going to hit record and I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then you can carry the first 15 minutes of the podcast and then I'll show up later. What is that? Like, who does that?
Honestly, it's the to me, the more I can get into this, it's like the most diva thing ever. Like it's
It
almost
is.
intentional to be like, oh, I could show up and it'd be no big deal, but I'm going to intentionally not just to show you that I'm a diva. You know, that's what it seems like. Like
That,
Giannis and Dame didn't even show up to the effing stadium. Like,
that's what.
like, okay, boys, didn't realize we had won the championship already. You know?
What message does it send to the Lakers that LeBron's talking about owning the Las Vegas team that doesn't even exist yet?
Yeah, while his team is literally playing, right? Like he wasn't in the stadium when they were playing, like against the Warriors, was he? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I don't
That's,
think so.
that's the thing. It's like you're asking Steph Curry to show up and shoot a few shots during a game. He does it. There's zero people in the league then who have an excuse. If Steph Curry's doing it, nobody's better. So what are you doing?
You have to show up and earn everything.
And just be a good leader like that. You know, there's a bunch of whippersnappers
Because
that need to see some. I am getting.
because okay, let's take this to another extreme with this podcast.
You know,
Let's say we built this thing to 1 million views a week, just as a hypothetical.
rolling.
Right? And we're putting in the work and we're there every Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day of the week we decide to shoot the podcast. But we're consistent every week. And then we hit 1 million views a week. And then we just disappear. Right? We're not gonna hit that 1 million views because we're not putting in the work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I look at everything as a natural progression. You have to be willing to take the steps, even as a superstar,
Mm.
whether it be Giannis Antetokounmpo or Joel Embiid or Derrick Rose or Kawhi Leonard or Kyrie Irving. I'm trying to pick from different teams so that I'm not being biased.
Mm.
But the second you stop putting the work in, even as a superstar, you're shortchanging everything.
Mm. Man, yeah, and it sets a tone. Like this is your moment, first moment to set a public tone on a game stage, and you just literally didn't show up to work. Seems like a weird message to send to your guys and
Like
to
you
your
said,
families.
like it's like I said with the Mamba effect, right? With Pascal. I've never been a selfish player. Even if you believe that, you don't say it.
Exactly. You just take some ownership and be humble. You
Look,
would think.
there may have been a few moments last year where I got carried away and I was a bit selfish. I've worked on that over the summer. I've recommitted myself and I'm here to work.
Yeah.
That's what you say.
Yeah. And like, how
That's what
is
you
his
say.
agent? Does he not have an agent? Does he not have a marketing person? Like, he does, and he disregarded them, right? Because guaranteed
That's
somebody
what you
gave him
say,
that
though.
advice. Yeah. That's what troublesome for me. That's the one piece that I'm worried about for Toronto is like, that attitude is scary because it's I'm better than everybody attitude.
Again, it's one of those things. You got to be willing to pull the wagon, dude.
Love it. That's the wagon pullers are what gets the thing done. And we've named a couple of them that show up on those days that aren't expected, maybe for some of these other divas to do it. But that literally is the moment, maybe that's most important for those guys to show up, to show that even on the little ones, you're still the first one in the stadium. You're still, whatever your thing is to show that you're the boss or you're engaged and stuff like that. That's the time I would think you would do that as one opportunity.
It's really funny though, because I remember last week. Last week you said LeBron's focused and he's locked in and this, that, and
Just
the
from
other
one
thing.
interview, it looked like it. It sounded like it. I think
And
I'm
and
wrong.
and this week you came to me and said, "Well, he's talking about going to Vegas for a team that doesn't exist that he's gonna own." And
I
I'm
think
like, "What?"
I think his focus maybe was sharp, but it wasn't on Lakers.
See, and I can't get behind that because if we're getting red wine, LeBron, we might as well go home now.
Man, I would be curious what the rest of the Lakers fans think because I don't know. I'm curious how much hope exists in the reality for Lakers fans out
Oh,
there.
we're 0-0. There's all the hope in the world,
Yeah,
but it depends on which Laker team shows up.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, so much of history has to kind of disappear for some of these storylines to actually be interesting, right? Because all of
And
history tells us they're irrelevant and it's going to fall apart.
and here's the thing. I will say this, and Laker Nation, please don't get upset because I believe I'm speaking the truth. The Lakers' problem too is with their fan bases. We have fair weather fans.
Mm,
Other than Jack, all you see is the stars at the game because they want the publicity of being at the crypt.
mm,
But if the Lakers are playing poorly, you notice that camera doesn't quite pan out as much as it normally would when the Lakers are good.
man, yep.
I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but this Laker fan has.
It's like there's empty sections when they start losing. You know, it's not.
Although I will give Big Jack credit. Big Jack's been there from day one. He's our Spike Lee, and I got to
He,
give Big Jack some credit. So,
he's the coolest NBA fan there is. That's for sure. Like OG life for that guy, man. Yeah, you guys got the coolest fan. I'll give you that one. We're still stuck with Drake. Not saying stuck. He's still you know, shout out Drake taking some time off for his health. You know, get right.
yeah, taking some time off for his health. Yeah, Drake really seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah, yeah. It's everybody's got a PR person. See, at least he's listening to his PR person and giving a statement that.
Imagine this. Okay, imagine this. I come up with a statement, right? 2 years down the road, after being a global ambassador for the At the Buzzer podcast. And I release a PR statement that says, I've got to go away for a while, guys, to focus on me and my health.
What do you think is the real reason?
Huh?
What do you think's the real reason that he's disappearing? Not to get sidetracked
I
here.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because honestly, for our global ambassador to try and keep this basketball relevant, Drake's popularity seems to go like this.
Yeah.
1 minute he's hot, the next minute most people don't care, and then he goes back to being hot again. It's
Mm.
kind of like being a Raptor fan in a lot of ways, because and this is why I miss Schwartzky on the Chuck Schwartzky on the Raptor broadcast.
Oh
For
man.
those of you who remember, Chuck, just put a Chuck in the comments.
Yeah.
But even when the Raptors were bad as an expansion franchise, Chuck made you believe they could win every night. They couldn't, but
Made
at
it.
least he gave you hope that they could win.
Yeah. That's true. Jack Armstrong and Matty D. They got too much honesty. They know when it's going down, and they just can't even sugarcoat it.
And that's the difference. With Schwartzky, he all made you believe they could win. Not
Yeah,
that they would win, but that they could win.
and it wasn't a sugar-coated thing, right? Like he wasn't pandering to a soft audience. He was just being a optimistic announcer, right? That's different.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with being an optimistic announcer. But there's nothing worse than the Raptors being down 8 and you're watching a game on TSN with Matty D and Big Jack on the call there. and the Raptors are down 9, and Jack just goes, "The Raptors don't have it tonight." It is the most demoralizing thing as a basketball fan
So
that
true.
you can hear. Because I'll tell you what happens. Even though you were like, even though you were watching the game and you're like, man, these boys don't have it tonight. To hear your announcer say it takes it to a whole different level, man.
So true. Because that's kind of like in the rule book, is you're not supposed to be negative, right? For the commentators, but man, there's something to be said about being a good live play-by-play, and hopefully there's an opportunity for some of our.
And don't get me wrong, I love Jack. Jack's my favorite guy. Jack's my dude.
He came
But
full down.
when he's just like the Raptors are stuck 9 and they just don't have an answer tonight, and it's the second quarter. You're like, Jack, we were all thinking it, but did you have to say it out loud?
Yeah, you just made it real. You just like made it stone. Yeah, because he knows. You trust his opinion. He's not going to be that off on his opinion. He's pretty sharp, so carries weight.
He is pretty sharp. If there's
That's
one thing
true.
Jack Armstrong knows, it's basketball.
That and his Buffalo Bills. Shout out.
Shout
Yeah.
out to the Bills Mafia. Maybe we'll do an NFL podcast too. Who knows?
Yeah, some of that news is starting to creep into my sports feed just as it goes, right when these two seasons start doing a bit of the crossover. So I'd see the Cowboys loss, and I'm a sick sports fan. So I'm going to see a little pleasure of a team like the Cowboys getting embarrassed like that.
See, that's the greatest thing about being a Laker fan, and the worst thing. Because when the Lakers are the kings of the castle, we get to gloat to everybody and say, "Oh, you couldn't stop us."
Franchise.
And yet, when we're bad, when we're bad, the rest of the league's going, "Ha ha ha! You losers! You couldn't get it done. Jokes on you! You think you're the greatest."
So
So it's a
true.
double-edged sword being a Laker fan, but
Yeah.
I take it.
It's a sharp one, right? And like we were saying at the start, if you don't have the high highs, you're not going to have if you don't have the low lows, you're not going to have the high highs. And you want a bit of both in the sports world, right? You want to actually feel
And and I said this a couple of weeks ago, but I feel the need to say it again. For those of you who think I'm just a poser Laker fan, I got one name for you, and that's Smush Parker.
you know,
And if you don't know who Smush Parker is, go look it up. I was a fan while he was on the team.
yeah. Kareem is all I gotta say. Kareem the Dream. I was
Oh, Magic was my guy, dude.
okay. I mean, yeah, there you go. Like just those two alone almost make you the greatest
Mm-hmm.
franchise of all time. Like
Uh-huh. So actually, if we're talking about greatest of all time, best Raptor in franchise history,
Vince Carter has to be
huh?
has to be Vince Carter.
Even with all the venom and everything, you're gonna say Vince Carter.
I've personally forgiven. He gave us heck of a lot more than Steve Francis gave Vancouver. Say that much.
Have
A little bit
you
more.
watched the Grizzly Truth? On a side note, have you seen the Grizzly Truth yet?
I was told to watch it and I get the idea of get his personal story behind it, but I don't give a shit. You're getting paid money to do a job. Don't show up for the draft then. That's my hot take. You don't think other people had fucking personal issues? Didn't want to be away from home? Don't get it. Don't care. Like,
It's kind of like how I said with JJ, right? Grow up.
yes. As that was my instant reaction. I saw him there like crying, being interviewed by some Sportsnet guy when the movie was coming out. And from human to human, man, respect and all of that. But as a sports fan, you don't get to be the one paid athlete that comes into a league and says, no, I go where I want. Like, damn, Michael Jordan didn't get to do that. LeBron James didn't get to do that.
Kobe didn't get to do that.
Exactly. Like nobody. And Steve Francis?
Here's the thing. It's usually me getting fired up. I don't know where this fire came from.
I don't know either, but it's come up a few times in the past when people have been like, "Hey, you seen that movie?" And I'm just like, "I can't believe somebody made a movie about that." It's what else do you need to say? The guy made a
In other words, you don't care what his side of the story is.
yeah, truly. It just if it's anything other than I was young and selfish, wish I could have been a bit more mature. I don't want to hear it.
Well, in a roundabout way, he did say that, but he didn't really say that.
Yeah, I don't need an hour and a half. That's 10 seconds. you know?
Here's the thing. Here, I'm gonna ask you one more question about the Grizzly Truth, and then we'll leave it at that. But but Stu Jackson said the one thing he regrets is he didn't hold Steve Francis's feet to the fire.
Mm, okay.
What do you think about that statement from Stu Jackson,
Stu Jackson being the manager or
the
owner.
GM and president at the time?
Wow, he had both. Eh? He said he didn't hold his feet to the fire in the sense that he thought he could outsmart it and like, okay, we could pivot and still succeed, or
No,
he
he meant he didn't make him sit out NBA games and miss paychecks and
did he
things of
say
that nature.
why?
Huh?
Did he say why?
He said inexperience, he didn't want to affect the team in such a way, that kind of deal.
Wow, wow. Talk about a business fail. Like,
See, here's my thing. Here's my thing, and I'm not gonna get as fired up as you. And this could be any random player, which is funny because I'm usually the one that gets fired up between the two of us. By the way, if you're still with us, like and subscribe because if you've watched us this long, you know you're sticking around till the end.
yeah, you got
Uh,
the
but if I draft a player, right, and he's a generational talent, and he says, I'm not going to play for you, well, then you know what? Kind young sir, you can sit up in the press box for 3 years, or however long the league decides that you have to sit there, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, and you don't get to play. How
like
about that?
like that sounds like a very basic adult business decision to explain to somebody, right? Like if you're the adult in the room and this 18, 19-year-old kid's telling you how it is, exactly what you just said is what I would have told him and said, if you want to throw away your career, enjoy the next 3 years sitting in the freaking box. Like truly, we're going down either way. If you're the team of Vancouver, so why would he have the leverage? I guess is the question. Poor
I
negotiate.
don't know. And it's the scariest thing in the business of sport that the players have most of the power now.
I go back and forth on it, right? Like, because in the situation like that, yeah, super unfortunate that
All
the
right, I'll put it another way. I'll put it another way, and here's my hot take for the episode. The NBA Executive of the Year award means jack squat. It means nothing. The players are controlling all the movement, and the league doesn't even need its GMs anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
wow, wow. Yeah, I don't know what happens behind the scenes and stuff, but I'm imagining that there's still some old owners that have sway around the money books that even players can't quite sway. Like there's some, right? There's the Brooklyn guy that got fleeced. Like there's a sucker born every second, no doubt. But I think there's still a lot of those like power owners with groups and stuff like that that don't get pushed around too much. And but there is some significant change, like you're saying, of some star powers being able to do what they want. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying irrelevant for GMs, but uh, yeah, I don't know.
Well, look at over the past few years. We've seen Katie go wherever the heck he wants, whenever the heck he wants. We've seen James Harden cry his way out of 3 different cities. We've seen Kyrie leave everybody after saying he's going to stay forever.
Yeah.
We've seen Kawhi cry his way into 2 different cities.
Yeah. There's
I'm
been
that
better.
The evidence would suggest that the Executive of the Year award in the NBA is absolutely useless
Yeah. Well,
because it's just about where the players want to play.
the opposing argument would be the executive of the year goes to the person that didn't kowtow to the players. You know, the guy that actually did his job. And then you would be congratulating the guy for actually doing his job rather than just letting Kevin Durant do whatever he wanted and etc. You know, so if you get pushed around, you shouldn't get that award. But if you're a guy that actually put together a team and didn't get pushed around, maybe there's a value to the award there.
Like, explain to me this. Explain to me this, because this is what bothers me. And this is why I'm as cynical about the GM position as I am.
Hmm.
You have Ben Simmons, who does nothing but complain about back problems and getting his mind right,
Hey, he's
who
back,
has 3 years who has 3 years left on his contract in Philadelphia. And he
baby.
somehow finds a way to trade himself while being the worst point guard in the NBA, who can't even stand on the court without back pain, to a team that somehow gave away James Harden
Man, I don't
with
want to be like,
damaged goods. Explain this to me because I don't understand how that works.
well, two things. The Brooklyn owner, I was saying he got fleeced. I forgot to say he got fleeced twice, right? Like he bought into the KD triad with the Harden Kyrie, and then he got Simmons in the worst contract in almost NBA history. And if it goes the same way that it's going, it will be the worst contract in NBA history. But that I would argue too is just one team and an extreme example of such. But on a tangent too of the Brooklyn Nets, Cam Thomas is my pick for the 10th spot roster guy to watch. He blew up for 3 games last year when he started, when it was getting that mix of KD leaving and stuff like that. And he went off for like
Yeah,
35 every game and then
you
disappeared.
know who else does that? You know who else does that I can't figure out why he can't stick to a team?
Mm.
Is now that we're back on the 10th man conversation, Stanley Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What about Patrick
Explain,
Beverly?
huh? Who?
Patrick Beverly.
Oh, we ain't got enough time left to discuss Patrick.
That's what I was like. Forget Stanley. Tell me what your thoughts are about Pat Bev.
All right, apparently this is going to be a Mo Money rant edition of the At the Buzzer podcast. Here's the thing about Pat Bev, as I go into my third rant of the show, and that is this. Pat Bev, if he could shut his mouth and play ball, he would be probably one of the elite defenders in the game. But the problem is he's a double-edged sword. He can defend, but he honestly believes that whatever team he's on, he makes an instant contender. That is not true. That is not close to true. And you're just an older Dylan Brooks. That's all you
Ooh.
are. You're an older Dylan Brooks. You don't deserve to play for anybody. You're past it, and
Ooh.
your defensive skills are diminishing. And
Ooh.
you took, you know what?
Who's he
Here's
playing?
how I sum up Pat Bev. You celebrated finishing 7th in the Western Conference. You should be ashamed of yourself.
He does talk trash in the most inopportune times, right? Like,
Is that good enough on Pat Bev? Does that eloquently illustrate how I feel about Patrick Beverly?
I'll
He's
say one.
garbage.
I'll say one thing though. You know his name. You know his name. Just like Dylan Brooks. It was like, this guy's a joke. This guy's an effing joke. Everybody knows his name and who got paid. Pat Bev, Dylan Brooks, they keep getting paid. Right? There's some reason, the hustle, the grit, the something.
Okay. I know how you feel about Dylan Brooks, but would you pay Pat Bev?
Not unless I was into like revenge on somebody on my team or other teams and I just really wanted to mess with them. I would put Pat Bev on a team where they had to spend time with him for an extended period of time. That would be like a good form of vengeance in my mind.
With Dylan Brooks, it's a little bit different
He's young
because
too.
he's got a little bit of skill and he can contribute to a team, kind of. So you can still get some use out of Dylan Brooks. Is he worth what he's getting paid? Hell no, he's
Yeah.
not. And I challenge anybody in the comments to tell me why Dylan Brooks is worth what he's getting paid.
Hey,
And if they use
you'll be
the
able to
rising
tell
salary,
us.
if they use the rising salary cap, I'm gonna laugh in their faces.
Business time.
Dylan Brooks is not worth what he's getting paid, nor will he ever be.
Woo! Hot on our
There's
Canadian
a
boy.
reason Memphis ran him out of town.
Mm,
And I bet, and I'm willing to bet.
yeah.
Here's my bet. Houston will be good in what, 3 years?
I think sooner
Give
than
or
San Antonio will be good. That's for sure.
Okay, so I will tell you, how long is Dylan's contract? Do you know? Can you pull that up?
I think it was a 3 year. I can pull it up real quick.
Hold on. Let me just make sure I have this right before I rip into this.
So Bev is on the Sixers, by the way. How's that for a freaking him and
I
Embiid?
just told you I didn't like Philly, didn't I?
Man, if there
Earlier
was
in this
one team I
podcast.
couldn't be on, it would be Philly. With Embiid and Pat Bev, I'm not that constitution. I couldn't handle it.
How did DMX put it? Y'all gonna make me lose my mind?
Oh yeah. Yo, Dylan Brooks got ejected in the first 5 minutes of his preseason
Of
game.
course he did. What's it in the first 5 minutes?
Within the first 5 minutes,
What's his contract?
I think it's 80. Sorry, I just pulled it and then it disappeared. Signed a
Can't believe you
4 year,
got Tom.
86 mil, annual average of $21 million, 500,000.
And it's for how long?
4 year.
So by the time he leaves Houston, they will have run him out of town by the time they're any good.
I think they might be better sooner.
No, they will run him out of town as soon as they got a chance at winning because he's a distraction to the team and he's not as good as he thinks he is. I get. Here's a receipt you can keep. Gee, you ready for this one?
Yo,
If the Rockets are contenders by the time that contract is over, they will trade Dylan Brooks to get him away from their winning team.
I think I actually am on your side on this take. I was about to go the other way, and then I looked at him, and I looked at what the first preseason ejection was for. It was for a shot to the below the belt.
Already? 5 minutes into the game?
See, based on that, I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. You can't have him on a winning team. You just
He's
can't.
gonna be the guy. He's gonna be the guy that forever plays for like Orlando and gets paid, and he's the ticket drawer because people want to see what idiotic thing he's gonna do next.
Man, do you
And
remember the Bash Brothers?
he will make his money, but he'll never go anywhere.
Yeah, and he's probably fine with that, just have a legend outside of it. Who was the guys on Slapshot? You remember the freaking Bash?
Just have a legend outside of it. It's a
Yeah.
legend of Dylan Brooks.
What's the do you
Oh,
know Slapshot from the 70s and then they remade it? Um,
Slapshot 1 was a good movie. Slapshot 2 and 3 were ridiculous.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, I was thinking of Mighty Ducks where the Bash Brothers came from, but it was actually from that baseball movie even further back. But anyways, a goon's goon is what Brooks will be and probably strives to be.
Yeah, but this isn't hockey.
No, he does come from
Look,
Canada.
look, look. If it was hockey, see, if this was a hockey player we were talking about, I'd be singing his praises. I'd be like, he's a pest. He's an agitator. He's great. But this is the NBA.
Oh, you know what? I'm going back on it again because I just saw who it was. It was Daniel Tice that he hit. So I'm back on Brooks's side, actually.
What?
Daniel Tice is a bum.
So is Dylan Brooks.
That's why I have no sympathy. Um,
Dylan Brooks is just a rich bum.
True, and he'll at least be able to hold on to that as his claim to fame. I think Memphis is screwed though without him and Jaw. I know we said that last week too, but eesh, don't see anything good
Well,
happening.
I told you this is going to happen. What did I tell you? I said they were going to get off to a really slow start
Yeah.
because they're going to be missing John Dillon and they're not going to be able to recover. And I told you Memphis was going to miss the playoffs. Didn't I say that?
So far, your receipts are solid. Doesn't look like it's going to be questioned yet. Do you think the Clippers are going to
Especially,
get James Harden? That seems like the final nail in the coffin, right? Like get Harden, have another shit season, excuse the language, and then send everybody home, right?
oh, it's okay. We're fired up today. I know we try to limit the cursing, but I think that's the fourth one we've dropped today, so it's all good.
We'll keep it under
But
wrap.
but that's why I put the Clippers in the blow it up category. Not because they're not a talented team, but because they're the team that can't get out of each other's way or out of their own way. A-
Man, yeah.
And for those who keep telling me you're going to be wrong one of these years, prove it to me. The Clippers have been so horrible for so long that you're going to have to show me you're worth something before I buy stock in you.
Man, yep.
Look at what happened with Lob City. Remember, Lob City was going to be the thing that beat everybody and they're going to take everybody to school? You couldn't get out of the second round.
Man,
You haven't even been to a conference final in your entire history, or maybe they made one recently.
I don't think so. I don't think
But
so.
I don't think they've been. I don't even think they've been to a conference final unless they lost a conference final
Man,
somewhere.
yeah, they're probably the most cursed team in the NBA.
Like they can't get out of their own way. I think I've said that like 5 times today on this podcast.
Yeah.
But they're a cursed team. They're not going anywhere. And if they get James Harden, I'm just gonna sit back and laugh
It's
because
almost like
you're
a
gonna
picture perfect if they do, right?
because you're gonna end up with Paul George, who nicknamed himself PG-13, by the way. And
I
I'll give you a
forgot
little
about
history lesson here. That means if you're under 13, don't watch him because you'll be embarrassed if you do.
that. Oof.
And you'll have a prima donna in Kawhi and a crybaby in James Harden. Sounds like a great trio to me, doesn't it?
You know, I don't even know if Kawhi's a prima donna because that would imply that he has feelings. I don't think he's got feelings. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't give an F. He just like that could be seen as a prima donna, but would you call the Terminator a prima donna? No, he's just a machine. And sometimes he's just turned off, you know, just didn't get fuel that day or something, didn't have a mission. we'll go back to our movie reviews another time.
Well, prima donna might not be the right word, but you get the point I'm trying to make.
Oh yeah, guys that can't work on a winning team in 2023.
At this rate, and remember, they did trade us for Russell Westbrook.
Man, I would love to see Pascal go to the Clippers and give us PG 13. I'd take PG over Pascal.
Here's the one piece that the Clippers stole from us that was useful, and that was they got Zubats from us.
Did they?
Zubac was a good Laker.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah, they got Zubats in the Westbrook deal, which really kind of made me mad.
He looked great last season and horrible in that preseason game. Don't know what was that, but he looked shaky.
Yeah, well, he's not on my team anymore, so I'm gonna worry about it.
That's fair. That's fair. I was just thinking about the Raptors on the big guy front with Pirtle. There's not a whole lot of American big men. There's not a whole lot of athletic big men out there.
Well, here's my thing because I was watching TSN because I actually do my homework when it comes to these things,
Bro, same.
and and you know it may not seem like it because I go on so many rants, mostly because G sets me up for them, but also 13-9 is not a bad stat line for Jakob Pertl.
True. True. And he doesn't.
Why is my disdain for Pirtle so great if 13-9 is not bad for Jakob Pirtle?
Well, you could say the same about Pascal. 25 and 10-5 is great. Why do I have a problem with it? I'm guessing it's the same reason you do. It's like it depends on how you're fitting with the team, and are you making them a winning team by you being as part of that lineup in that role? Is that what you're sort of going?
Is it part of what we gave up to get him too?
Okay, I don't remember what we gave.
We gave up a first and a third for Jakob Pertl.
Okay, yeah, that's not nothing. At least it wasn't 4 first rounds. To say that much, because I see him as same as Gobert, just a little shorter. Or as Perk says, Gobert.
Like, oh. No, so I maybe I'm expecting too much from Jakob. Maybe that's my issue.
Okay.
But there are so many factors that why I don't like that deal that we'd need another podcast just to get into it all.
I see you're looking at you'd be wanting a different timeline for the Raptors in terms of like rebuild, don't go with the current lineup type. We'll go over that in another podcast, but yeah, I can see what you're saying with having an issue. A lot of people were confused by the Pirtle trade, right? They're like,
and what? We had him already.
Yeah, I truly believe it was them trying to bail themselves out of a disaster that was going to be worse than it was. And I think it was past.
Now here's the funny thing that the guy on TSN said, and I don't agree with this at all. He said Jakob is still getting better as a center in the NBA. And I was like,
I hope so.
No, I treat him like I treat Kristaps. I've seen enough to know what Jakob Pertl is.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make an exponential moon jump, but will it make incremental growth? That's the best you can hope for, and you can hope for that and see that maybe, but yeah, it's not going to be suddenly jumping from the foul line, dropping threes, behind the back passes.
I keep saying I am a Raptors fan as well, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, you can wear multiple colors.
But I go back to what G said. If it came to a Laker Raptor final, who you rooting for? And I can't hide my Laker colors that much.
Amen. Yeah, and you know who the Lakers missed out on beyond DeRozan during that whole mix-up with Westbrook was Norman Powell. I love Norman Powell, and I feel like he's gotten done dirty by the circumstances of the league. Like, there's nothing that dude could have done more to get better every single season, make those moon jumps in terms of how good you are, and just be overshadowed on teams that weren't going to use you to your best capacity. You know, you go to Portland, you're under Dame and CJ's shadow. You go to Clippers, it's Paul and freaking Kawhi. Man, and on the Raptors, he was under like 6 people. But when he's had a chance to go, he's an easy 25. Like he's
See,
like Donovan Mitchell level. I would consider him.
it might be just the Powell last name because Dwight Powell has the same problem in Dallas. Now,
Interesting.
I'm not saying skill wise he has an opportunity to be as good as Norman Powell,
Mm,
but Dwight Powell is a workhorse, and he doesn't seem to get the opportunities in Dallas to show
mm,
what he can do either.
mm. Yeah, those ones get me where it's like and it's not one season they've been putting in the work. They're like almost like OG to an extent too. It's like you're better than they've allowed you to be in a lot of ways. Yet they've cultivated you, so you can't take that away from the Raps. But I think OG, there's a reason people were like lining up for him at the deadline and begging for picks, anything to take him.
That's my thing. I think that also ties into my Jakob Pertl disdain.
Mm,
Is we could have sent OG to Memphis, got our 3 first-round picks, and held on to our own pick, and not had Pertl, and we could have rebuilt this thing the right way.
mm,
And they didn't do it, and they've set themselves back at least 3 to 5 years based on that Jakob Pertl trade alone. Because not only did you give up a first-round pick, you didn't get the 3 for OG. And when is the next time OG is going to be worth 3 first-round draft picks?
Well, since his contract's expiring, it's not going to be this year, right? It's two fatal mistakes that are not fatal yet, I don't think. It's the Pirtle and the Fred Van Vliet. The only redemption is if this new culture and group works really well together because the roster's solid. But if the chemistry works and everybody plays their role to the best, they're out of that 3 to 5 year doomsday scenario, I think, because they'll have that core and a really promising core that's young enough to keep going and be really high levels. Like they could compete for the next 5 years at the highest level, knowing that Scotty's going to be going like that. Everybody else is in their prime, and you've still got a decent core to play with and develop starting now of the young guys and stuff on your bench. So I don't think all is lost, but those two things there were direction paths of Pirtle and Van Vliet, and it's like, oof, if this doesn't work out, you're right. 3 to 5 years have disappeared, and it's like risk of a franchise going back into purgatory, which would suck. But I don't think we're
I
there
hope
yet.
I'm wrong.
I think this season is the deciding factor for that big time. And maybe
I
even like
hope I'm wrong.
we're gonna know quick. I feel like we'll know really quick. It's
Well,
easy to
but my
see.
takes have been pretty solid, so
Yeah. This so far, I haven't seen any red flags other than the Pascal thing. So we'll see on that. Hmm. There,
any other thoughts? We got about, I'd say, 10 to 12 minutes left in the podcast here.
yeah, we should get a segment going of not trivia, but we could do. It'd be cool to come up with a little segment or something for the end of shows here, where we could just like have a consistent segment. Like this could be where the draft or odds and gambling stuff did a little segment or something, and just do sort of a wrap up 10-minute thing. But I love games or something that gets the like brain going on naming some things.
Well,
What about
well,
games?
I'm gonna steal an idea here from the Steve Dangle podcast, which is a hockey podcast, which he calls the press conference.
Okay.
Which I'm gonna give you a few minutes to discuss anything you want that may be happening or you may think is happening around the NBA if you'd like to take the floor.
Hmm. Do you want to go first? Give me an example.
Like, for example, like it's not really a rant segment, but if you had an opinion on a player, you
Hmm.
could have an open floor for the next couple of minutes to discuss said player that we wouldn't necessarily fit into a topic of the show.
Okay, I like that. Okay. Um, there's a couple that came to mind. I don't know why Dwight Howard came to mind, but he's not technically a player right now. Um, I just think that dude thinks way too much of himself. Uh,
We could have a whole nother podcast about people who think way too much of themselves in the NBA.
it's it's yeah. Nope, jumping at the top of my list right now. I'm super curious about who's going to finish the preseason strong. I don't know why that's something that I fixated on as like just an interesting point to see where people care level is, right? So that was my initial sort of
See,
rant with the like seeing people just not care because they're better than everybody. Like that caught my
well,
attention.
you see that in the regular season too. Like, teams coast through the regular season.
Mm,
Like I've noticed, especially over the last couple of years, that teams that you'd normally think would finish top of the conference tend to coast, and as long as they're in that fourth to fifth spot, they're pretty happy.
mhm.
So I think that upsets the apple cart of the league as well.
I'm gonna give you a quick rant, and it's not on a player; it's on a coach.
Okay.
Nick Nurse, the night nurse, talking to you. I've been watching some of these young guys in the preseason here from all over the league. I'm seeing Raptors that were promising young dudes, had some shining moments, and then did something wrong and got benched, like brutally benched by Nurse several times throughout the season. And they would talk about it saying, yeah, short leash, you got to take it serious. But it seemed like it was such a short leash that Freddie Van Vliet was playing 43 minutes and grew so bitter that the whole team got poisoned. So what I'm thinking is leadership, all this different stuff, but this guy didn't get any real flack for dismantling a team that should have been championship contender. And man, talk about just failing upwards, getting a gig right out of the gate after that just shows that people weren't really looking at his influence on the team. So how does somebody skate by on accountability when you're literally the guy where the buck is supposed to stop? He's the one that designed the broken offense. He's the one that kept it in Pascal's hands and didn't coach them better. He's the one that, had janky defense as their baseline. I think that guy really had an ego that messed up our young players' core to have development. I'll just name a few here. Delano Banton just had a great game for the Celtics and put in like 18 points, had a killer offseason. He's from inner city Toronto, had a great first couple games with the Raptors last year, made a mistake, didn't see the floor again the rest of the year. It's like, okay, there's one. Stanley Johnson was one. There's a rolling list of like young guys. And then I see Pritchard and I compare him to Malachi Flynn. And I would say Nick Nurse is the deciding factor in why Malachi Flynn is 2 years behind Pritchard in terms of development. And it shouldn't be. They should be equal level right now. And it's like not even close because I think they've got a baseline similar talent. So I think that's a perfect example of coaching and organization. And that's Nick. And he failed. And man, 2 thumbs down because that has long-term impacts when you screw up a whole development system. And that's just my opinion. Who knows if it has any basis in reality? In mine, it does. In mine, it does, man.
It's like my Mark Jackson scenario. Hey?
Yeah, but I just didn't see any player development happen through Nick Nurse's time. And they were renowned for that coming up until he got there. Like Pascal, Freddie, OG, nobody's. Raptors, boom, they're all stars.
Yeah, but then you also have the other side of the coin where you have Charlie Villanueva, Rafael Araujo, and the list goes on and on and on.
Those were before
So
Masai.
there's a double-edged sword to that now.
Before Masai, and I think Masai's biggest mistake was keeping Nick Nurse on. He trusted the mirage of this legendary coach who just happened to win a championship. And he gave him the reins. And it's like, no, you messed up there. You should have been paying closer attention, Masai, because Nick didn't know what he was doing.
No, that wasn't Masai. That wasn't Masai's mistake. You want to know what Masai's mistake was? Handing the team over to Bobby Webster. That was Masai's mistake.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot.
It wasn't Nick Nurse. It was Bobby Webster.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. The reason being is because Bobby doesn't know what he's doing.
There's the line of the thing.
No, because if you think about it, in the entire time that Bobby Webster has been the GM of this team, he hasn't decided on a direction for the team to go. They've been middle of the pack ever since he got there. Either you're supposed to be going up towards contendership or down towards rebuild. If you stay in the middle, that doesn't help nobody. Masai's biggest mistake was putting Bobby Webster in charge of the franchise.
When did he come in? He came in before they won the championship, didn't they?
No, he came in after.
Really? Okay.
Because that's when Masai took over the presidency of the team.
Right, and co-chair of the Maple Leaf sports.
Yeah, they're trying to get rid of him too, by the way. But there's only 3 minutes left in the podcast, and we'll probably have to touch on that another time.
Yeah, just a quick note on that. I think that was one of the biggest boss moves I've ever seen in sports management, business stuff, was that he was holding out on taking the president job again, signing the contract until he got that co-chair title. Because like co-chair is like, you have a stake that's bigger than everybody else's in the biggest thing in Toronto, which is like Mafia. It's got so much tied into Maple Leaf. Like,
that's what I mean. Like, his mistake was giving the team to Bobby Webster, and Bobby Webster. Like, if you're gonna put us in a rebuild, put us in a rebuild. If you're gonna make us contenders, make us contenders. But pick a lane and go for it.
yeah.
If you're gonna rebuild, tell us we got 3 years of suffering. If you're gonna go for it, tell us you're going for it and actually go for it. He hasn't picked a lane. We've been mediocre since he took over, and that doesn't help anybody.
No, got to be on the same team, got to be on the same page, and when everybody's thinking same thing, might work out. But yeah, Bobby, we'll have to send him a letter, strongly worded one. See how it goes.
Yeah. Well, folks, this has been an edition of an At the Buzzard podcast. I'm Mo Money, my co-host G here. It'll be up tomorrow at 6 p.m. Until next time, may your ego come from a place that keeps you humble. And I pass the floor to you, G.
Shout out, Greater Brick. Keep up the great work there, buddy.
We wish you nothing but the best, Grady. I know I was hard on you earlier, but go get your bag, brother.
I want to see those. Those three start dropping, and that's all I got to say. Thank you for another awesome podcast, and hope everybody has a great week.
You bet. Take care.